House believes that the students' riots unsettle the traffic and the economic growth. This motion is important to talk about because this is already being over problem that hold traffic issues. But before we continue, please allow me to introduce myself first. My name is Sabila. As a first speaker, here I am going to present about my duties and all the duties of my team, and explain about the definition and present about the main argument and explain a little bit. The second speaker, I am Abid Nabil Rita Putra. He will explain about his own argument and explain more about my argument. The third speaker, Enya Cahya Kirana, she will explain more detail about all the argument from first and the second speaker, and she will give conclusion. Replay speaker is I am Abid Nabil Putra. He gonna give conclusion from all the speakers. Next is the definition. Students' riots is some of problem that caused by students. For example, is fighting, bullying, and kind of this demonstration. But riots is more dangerous than demonstration because of riots is some of action that already out of control, and this need a team of to stop it like police. And also riots is not allowed or have no permission. While demonstration it has, but it is. Unsettle is some of action that disturb or bother the peace. Traffic is when in a road there's a lot of cars, motorcycle, and etc. assemble in one road and move very slowly. Some of the cause is crowded, like fighting, demonstration, and riots. Economic. The economic is the wealth and resources of a country region, especially in terms of the production and consumption of goods and service. Growth is when something going up or going down, like the economy. Now, why does this motion exist? Because we know that this era right now, a lot of students always join in some problem and make a big impact. For the example is traffic issues and economic growth in riots. Because of why, when they assemble or join the demonstration, what they do is not show what they want in that demonstration, but they broke and make a disaster called riots. And that happen in a road is of course make the traffic issues. They make the movement in the road going slow and bring a problem that called traffic issues. Other than the traffic issues, they also make the economic growth unsettled, because what they do is broke all the retail business and or all the seller near that place is broke. In these riots, it's not just bring loss to the driver and the sellers. This impact will explain by the second speaker of my team. Then this is so urgent because if we don't care about what makes traffic and economic growing unsettled, it will go unsettled more and more every time and every year. It's all from me. Thank you so much.
Everyone, my name is Adinda Putih as the first speaker of opposition. Firstly, I want to respond what the first speaker of government team has said. Okay, the unsettled. I would like to point out what the keyword of motion, which is the unsettled, means. Our side of the house thinks that the unsettled means when there is no or definitely 100% out of control, or it's a full chaos. So our side of the house really thinks that the students will make the traffic and the economic growth less settled, not unsettled. Why do you think like that? Before I jump to my argument, firstly, I want to rebut what the first speaker of the government team has said. He said that they will broke all the facilities. Okay, we don't think like that because broke the facilities. Okay, broke facilities. It's just broke. Okay, like it will not affect our economic growth. So it's not made our economic growth will unsettle, but it's maybe become more less settled, not unsettled. So before I jump to my argument, I would like to let you know that our third split, I will talk about I as the first speaker will talk about the reason. Our second speaker will talk about the explanation and evidences, and our third speaker will summarize all of the arguments. So, jump up to my argument. It will not be unsettled but less settled. Okay, as we know, if students doing riots, it will make a traffic jam. But is it really make the traffic become unsettled? We don't think like that. Why? If there's a riot, then roads will be more crowded as than usual. But it would never be unsettled as the government team has said. Because the first one is we have police who should do their job. Then their job when the students are doing riots, it's to control the traffic, and they have a right to arrest the students who are already out of line. In this case, the student who already blocking the streets. Blocking the streets, but in this blocking streets, it's when the students already blocking all of the street, like the whole streets. But if we look at nowadays, the students are really blocking the whole streets. They just blocking maybe the half of the streets. And also, if the student is blocking the streets, there must be another streets, or maybe an alternative way to use. Also, if the students want to do a riots, there must be a news before they want to do that. So the society must know which streets the students will use for the riots, and the society will not use the streets. Jump to my second argument. It won't unsettle the economic growth. Yes, maybe like the government speaker has said, it will grow all the facilities. But yes, it will affect our economic growth. But it won't make our economic growth like unsettled. But is that riots will make our economic growth unsettled? We don't think like that, because it's if the students who do riots, what do you think the worst case scenario they would done? Maybe like the government team has said, they will broke the facilities. Maybe just broke the facilities. They broke the facilities that it's not really can make our economic growth unsettled. No, they cannot. Also, to wrap up my speech, in conclusion, why do we think that this motion is not? Why we don't agree with this motion is because the unsettled in the motion is really exaggerated. We don't think like that. Maybe this student riot will make our traffic and economic growth more or less settled, but it's not become unsettled. So that's all for me.
And to me, and today's motion is results with that students riot unsettle the traffic and the economic growth. First of all, I want to rebuttal for what the first speaker from the opposition said, that they said it will not unsettle the traffic, but we as the government believe that students riot will unsettle the traffic. Remembering the riot is it's something that was under control. That as my first speaker said, that the riot is different from like demonstration, where the riot can come just directly, and we cannot control when and where it happens. So the traffic will be unsettled because there are no like someone or institution that was controlling all of that traffic. And why it can unsettle the traffic too? Because remembering that the student was doing a riot in the traffic, it can make an accident for the students. Remembering that they are using the main way, so we as the drivers can be like shocked for what they do in the traffic. So we cannot control our vehicles for like turn around, turn back, or just go or whatever it is. And the second is about the facility growth that can impact or unsettle the economic growth that I will explain in my main argument. So, as I said before, that students' right will make the citizens' concerns for this because of the students' right, like I said before, the place that we cannot control and it's unexpected when and where it's happened. So, because we cannot expect where and why, where and when it happens, police or the institution that take control of it late to handle this case. As we know, there are so many things that students' right can make, but why traffic and economic growth is important to discuss? Because of this traffic and economic growth, its impact for the victim. It's not their impact. They are having an impact for the victim, like the citizens. So stakeholder is not just about the citizens, but it's also for the students that have not having anything from that right. And why this we must discuss this, because the students' right can happen every year. And as we see that, remembering that we cannot control when and where, it can happen all the time. So we want to discuss about these motions to prevent the unsettled traffic and the economic growth in the future if these students' right happen again. So as what I said at the beginning, the students' right have no control from the police. That the students will just do this right on its will. So they will do what they want, like destruction or violence in the street. So with this destruction and violence, why it can unsettle the traffic? Like I said before, that it can make an accident for the students, and it's blocking the way that it can annoy us as the drivers that for the unsettled traffic, remembering that we are wasting our time in that unsettled traffic. So it have not just impact for us, but also the other drivers that have maybe urgent issues for, like they are want to go to the hospital, remembering that they don't know there is a student right there. They are going there because maybe they think it's the fastest way, but they don't know that about the students' right, and that can make another urgent things happen. So why the students' right can impact or unsettle the economic growth? Remembering it can cause disruption and violation. It can cause this facility means it's about the retail business or business. People's business in the street that the students' right happen. Remembering that we cannot control this, the students will do what they want. They can stop from the store or just they are taking of what they want, like drinks or food, because there is no institution of police that was guard on that or have a watch on that riot. The students will do what they want or what they will. So, what these stolen or broke facilities can cost? It will cost a loss for the seller that was their store got stolen or their store got broke. Because of why? Because of many sellers of retail business, they are survive from their retail business. So this this will impact their economic growth and our country economy because of if this student riot happen every year and every year there's always the seller have a loss from this student riot, many of the citizens will lose their source of life, and also the retail business is also can impact the big retail business like supermarket, like Indomaret and Alfamart. That if they got bankrupt or lost, it will make none of the buyers want to buy from the supermarket anymore, and because they're bankrupt and loss of their source of sell. And why this important? Because of when there is not of buyers, there will not be income for our country. So that's all from me. Thank you.
First of all, I would like to give some explanation. Okay, I will give an actual evidence of why the student riot doesn't unsettle the traffic. For example, right? For the actual riots that usually happens like below the flyover in Makassar, right? It doesn't fully unsettle the traffic. We have to really understand the word unsettle, right? First of all, there are already police that having their camps around our cities, right? Around our countries. It's not like, oh, it's only in Jakarta, so like if there's a riot in Makassar, it will take time for them and it will be too late. No, that is wrong. So the next one is that unsettle is a strong word, right? Which means the fully opposite of the settled. So saying that it's unsettled, it's way too exaggerated. It's way too exaggerated for the government to use the word unsettled. So again, as the opposition, we're not really arguing about, I don't agree with the negative impacts that happening because of the student rights, right? That is the real impact. We know that. But we are really arguing about why it won't unsettle our traffic and the economic growth. So we have to know that these riots happens among students, right? Because it's called students' riots. So it will be in a smaller scale. And also, the motion actually requires the government to give a concrete evidence of why these students' riots will actually cause the unsettle the traffic and the economic growth. So let me tell you something. Let's say the crazy thing that's usually happen in Indonesia, right? Let's say an earthquake, which we know will be crazier than the students' rights, right? Yeah. Earthquake, like everyone just shaking around, right? So this earthquake is not unsettling our economic growth, right? It's not saying, oh, because the earthquake in Palu, the economic growth in Indonesia is unsettled now. No, because it's, first of all, they're not saying about how big of unsettlement. They're saying it's like a disorder of like a peace or what. But as we have repeated that the unsettled is the complete opposite, right? So they are more saying about it is affecting. Okay, let me give you why it's different. Let's say if I jump, I look like a freaking elephant, right? I will jump. But will I say that, oh, the Jakarta now is unsettled because of the earthquake that caused? No, right? Will it affect them? That technically, yes, in a very small scale. Probably vibrates their atoms, I don't know. So, let me give you one of the biggest riots that is actually happening. The Omnibus Law riots. Why? The Omnibus Law riots is actually happens throughout the Indonesia, right? But does it actually settle the economic growth? Is there a news that tells like, oh, the economic growth is unsettled now? And also, is there a news that says that these students' rights is actually the one who caused it? No. So it just doesn't make sense. And to summarize, we have to tell you, we have told you so many examples of why these riots will not actually going to unsettle our traffic and our economic growth. And yes, I would say it again and again, that until the government understands the actual word of unsettled, the actual definition, the actual meaning behind the word unsettled, Okay, so we have to really think that it's a very strong word. It is a very dramatic claim from the government to say that it will unsettle our traffic and economic growth. They don't even explain how big of a traffic or how big of the economic growth that it will unsettle. They don't give us any limitation on that. So of course, will I say that it won't affect at all? No, because as I've said before, even if I jump, then probably the atoms of human beings in Jakarta probably vibrates. So the next thing is that the second speaker even says that, oh, if like there's a bankruptcy in like Indomaret or Alfamart, people want to buy from them and there will be no income for our country. First of all, we have to know that economic growth comes from manufacturers. First of all, the amount and the quality of the manpower. Second of all, the amount of natural resources and etc. Right? So to say that these students' riots that is in a small scale is actually going to unsettle the traffic and economic growth, it just doesn't make sense. That's all for next question.
Dear educators, good afternoon. Dear opposition team, good afternoon, timekeeper, and good afternoon, chairperson, and good afternoon, every audience that you here now. Okay. I'm the third speaker, or you can say government whip. Want to bring rebuttal from this motion that this house believes that the student riots unsettle the traffic and the economic growth from the first speaker of opposition team. The first speaker of the opposition team said that they said there's an alternative way even if student riots is happening in a street. But the problem is, most of the streets that used in a student's riot is the main road, where the main road is where it's main way on transportation. And just because there's an alternative way other than the main road, it's not like we as the government are going to be blind about what's happening, about the traffic problem that happens every time there's this student's riot. And second rebuttal is to the second speaker. They said that students' riot is small scale. Have you ever seen any violence that happens in a student riot? Especially, for example, students' mass fights. We can say that this is an example for student riots, right? Have you ever seen the fights between these two universities? They almost like bringing sharp objects and want to destroy each universities, and it's not like the small scale like they said. And the problem is this students' riot is happening every year, just like my second speaker already said. And where a problem happens every year, then it cannot be solved. Like it can affect the traffic and economic growth slowly, and if it's not direct. But as long as there's this students' riot, then it will be still destroyed and settled. Okay, I will explain further about the arguments that my friends already said, that student riots, most of the people think that these student riots are caused by college students who wanted to protest about a government regulation that they do not agree with. We as government also agree with this kind of, you can say, demonstration, but the problem is student riot here is not happening when they're doing any demonstration. It's happening when they are become uncontrolled. Like, for example, as I said before, that students can fight, and you can say demonstration alike, where the students are not focusing on their main goal, which is protesting, but they just enjoy to make around they're making crowds in the middle of the streets. They just enjoy to make riots, just like any other young adult, selfishly character. You can say that these demonstrations alike, there's this they can burn tires in the middle of the streets. They're making crowds in the middle of the streets where transportation will go stopped. And the problem is, this student riots will make people around them feel insecure, especially that the street user, or you can say drivers, while the street is full of the students, crowd, and riots, where they make disasters and making people around them feel insecure. The problem here is, why I would say that the student riots will bring an unsettled economical growth. Actually, this is not going to make a direct effect by the student riot. But the problem is, as I said before, that this student riot will make people around feel insecure, and we can assume that along the street there's this retail business, and this retail business will also get affected and will be the victim of these student riots. Because some of the selfish students are still making problem even to the environment itself, which you can say that this retail business along the streets. And this retail business owner can close their business because they don't want suffer any more loss. And the solution that I bring today is, we as the government have to raise the awareness of citizens to report any uncontrollable riots around them. And it's better if they can report even before the riots happen. If somehow they got the news about the riot then, and that way the responsible institutes such as police department can watch the situation and handle the situation earlier. And the conclusion of our arguments is, student riot is a problem among society that makes anyone around feel insecure. Therefore, we as the government are responsible to decide any threats that's going to ruin the peace of our citizens, so we can have the solution to solve the problem. And at last, the peace of the citizens is our concern, because it's the only way for us to have a stable country. I think that's it for me. Good afternoon.
And gentlemen, thank you very much for having. So, opposition team is a team with clear stance. We believe that student riots is not unsettle the traffic and the economic growth. It just less settle the traffic, and how can a small problem such as student riots could unsettle the whole economic growth. Now, before I jump to my next speech, I would like to rebuttal some argument from the government team. First, about the riot. The first speaker have already given us example of the student riot, such as like fighting or demonstration. First, I would like to ask you about the fighting parts. Of course, if there's fighting among the students that in the main road, of course there will be someone who quickly call the police directly, and the police will quickly escalate those students that's fighting, and so on. And also, mostly people have already made camps in place that the students mostly will be fighting in there. So it prevents the students to doing their fighting in there. Next, about my second rebuttal is about, first, before I jump to my rebuttal, I would like to do clarification again. They say, the second speaker, if I'm not wrong, stating about, we state that the riot not unsettled the traffic. We state that it's less settled, not unsettled. Ladies and gentlemen, it's different between unsettled and less settled. Less settled is more like not settled, because unsettled is 100% completely out of control. It's chaos. Meanwhile, less settled, we still can control it. Maybe there will be some different with the settled situation, but still, it's still under control, ladies and gentlemen. Now, moving on to my next rebuttal. It's about the riots can disadvantage people, the traffic, and also the student. First, about the students. You mean about the student who are doing the riots? That's their consequence. Why you start fighting in the first place? Now, about the people that driving in the road. When they see from afar the students doing riots, this riot is, of course, we can clearly see they are fighting. Of course, we must prevent that. I should take another way. Of course, why we must jump? That's suicide. That's actually suicide. Now, of course, there will be also people around that tell that there's riots, students riots in there. You should go to find another way, or they will call the police. And the police directly go in there to escalate the situation. Next, moving on to my another review. It's about how does actually from retail business and a little bit bigger business, like you say supermarket, to actually unsettle the whole economic growth. Ladies and gentlemen, it's just a small thing. If you think about national economic growth, that's such a big, it's involved from many cities in our nation. My second speaker have already given you example of some factors that actually affect our economic growth. Now, for the third speaker, you saying about the riots in main roads. Can you give me one example of the riot student in the main roads? I mean, for me, it's actually suicide. Why the student want to fight doing that in the main road where people can clearly see them or directly call the police to stop them? I mean, they want to fight, yet they also didn't want to get punishment or getting killed by the police. That's just suicide. You're clearly fighting in those big main roads. That's what I think. Could you please give me an example if there's actually one? Now, so that's why, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to clearly say again about the economic growth. Let me take an example about the omnibus law. Omnibus law, like we already know, one of the biggest demonstrations the students have already done. And yet, after that, there is no really news that clearly stating about our economic growth is getting down. There's no such thing like that. We still living normally in Makassar. We still nothing wrong about our economy. We still can work. There's no people that the pay from their boss is getting less. No. We still can live normally even after this whole big demonstration. And you're stating that demonstration or fighting can actually unsettle the traffic and economic growth. That's just so stupid. I'm sorry. But seriously, that's it. So that's why, ladies and gentlemen, I repeat again, we believe that the student riots does not unsettle the traffic and economic growth. That's just too exaggerating. You put too more drama in this debate. Let's look at the realism, guys. Now, so that's why this side of the house win this debate, because we can give you clear states what's the actually word about unsettle and what it's actually happened in this world, in this present time. That's why, ladies and gentlemen, if they actually can explain about how these riots can actually unsettle the traffic and economic growth, I think opposition take this wrong. Thank you.
3, 2, 1. So, first of all, to conclude, the government team didn't do their burden. They don't explain exactly why that the students' riots will actually going to unsettle the traffic and the economic growth. And I think we know why. I think this house know why. Because there's lots of contradiction that is given by the government. The first thing, they giving the proposal, right? The proposal is to report before the riots happens. But then the second speaker says that these riots can happen all the time. There's no warning about these riots that could happen just spontaneously, right? So there is a contradiction. Second contradiction is that the first speaker already defined that demonstration is not equal to riot. But then the third speaker is saying, you kind of say demonstration. Come on, first of all, the first speaker already defined their own side of the house, saying that it's not the same, right? That riots is way more chaos than demonstration. And also, this side of the house didn't see in the big context. They keep saying that, oh, but the riots, it's not small scale, it's like there's a different university that is fighting. But it is a small scale in our world, in our, let's say our country, right? It is a small scale. So they definitely did not understand the actual motion itself. First of all, they already didn't do their burden. Second of all, they're just mostly saying about the impacts of the students' rights without actually really explaining and giving a concrete evidence that is needed for the motion about why exactly why. Our side of the house is already waiting. The first, second, and third speaker didn't give us any of that. But our team is telling exactly that. We're giving you examples there are lots of rights that actually didn't end to unsettle our traffic and the economic growth, which is not said by even a single explanation, a single example that is given by the government team. So I think that's kind of already summarized why our team is actually deserves to win this motion, because we are the one who actually give and actually understand the actual motion itself. They don't even understand the actual motion. They contradict their own teammate, which was, it was funny. And also, they even contradict their own definition, which was a huge thing, right? Because the definition of the motion is actually going to telling us how this debate goes on. If they even contradict that, honestly, I think it's already clear. That's all for my speech. Thank you.
I just want to get it straight that what's my team's argument and why we should care about this motion. This thing, if it happens again and again, sooner or later, or directly, but indirectly, but we believe that if this happens, this traffic issue and economic growth, because of this, and because of this traffic issue can make some urgent things that stops and unsettle some things in the traffic. And this unsettle is because we believe that we cannot control this traffic because of there is no like institution or some police that can handle this accident in the time when it happened. And economical growth from income of some little business is important for our country. That we highlight this because of if this students' right happens always happens all the time. That if we didn't prepare the things that happens, then we will lose forever. Thank you.